Hello and welcome to the last episode of Antinatalism This week of 2023. Lawrence has done a response video to Paul Joseph Watson. Paul Joseph Watson is a conservative YouTuber and he had made a video by citing an example of a woman who did not have children, who decided not to have children, and then later in her life was regretting that decision. And Lawrence very nicely points out two deliberate mistakes Paul seems to have done. One is Paul has clubbed antinatalism and child-free. The reasons the woman did not have children were child-free reasons, in the sense they were centered around herself rather than about the child, the potential child, which is not antinatalism. And Lawrence has nicely explained the differences. The second point is that any decision that you make in life, you can regret that decision later in the life. So that applies to all the decisions, including the decision to have children and the decisions to not have children. And Lawrence elaborates on that as well. I urge everyone to go and watch that video. One addition I would have done to Lawrence's response would be that it appears that there is a symmetry between the decisions, that you can regret the decision to not have children later in your life, or you can regret the decision to have children later in your life. But this is not symmetrical. The difference in these two things is that in case when you don't have children and then regret that decision later on, you are harming only yourselves. But if you do have children and then regret the decision to have children, you are harming yourselves as well as the children that you have brought into existence. I would rather regret not having children rather than have children and then regret having them. It is always good to see antinatalism being talked about in different languages. This time there was an article in magazine.pluska.sk. I think it's a Slovakian magazine. They talk about antinatalism, what antinatalism is, how religions, they refer to Christianity and Buddhism, how those religions have been talking about antinatalism, and also try and explain Bennett's argument, mainly the misanthropic argument. So nice to see that. Only one point, they say that antinatalism is only about human reproduction, whereas antinatalism can very well be beyond human reproduction. But still, good to see in different languages. There's a new book in Japanese called An Introduction to Philosophy of Life's Meaning. It is edited by Nobuo Kurata and Masahiro Morioka. It's a collection of works by many different authors. And even though it is in Japanese, I asked Masahiro to, tell me what is in the book. And he gracefully has put in the titles of the chapters in English. And you can see that all of the chapters are about life and meaning of life. So it's not directly an antinatalist book, but meaning of life is an important aspect when we talk about antinatalism. One of the chapters is If Life is Meaningless, Would It Be Better Not to Be Born by Fumitake Yoshizawa. And Fumitake Yoshizawa is also author of the paper we saw a few weeks ago, saying that Bennett's claim that his asymmetry, Bennett's asymmetry, solves non-identity problem, repugnant conclusion problem, and mere addition problem was false. The same author, so it would be interesting to read this book if it is available in English. Whoever can read Japanese, knows Japanese, would be interested to have a look at this book anyway. Karl Barth was a Christian theologian who had presented a doctrine of creation. His main idea, I think, was that Jesus Christ is the God. There is no God behind Jesus Christ. This is oversimplified and very short, one sentence describing it, but it's a very long and complex work in theology. I don't claim to fully understand it myself anyway. The point is, there is a new book about this, which takes this doctrine of creation of Karl Barth and applies to procreation. The book is by Matthew Lee Anderson, and it's called Conference in Life, a Barthian account of procreation. I have not read the book, but I saw the preview. It involves criticism of David Bennett's asymmetry, and it also involves criticism of antinatalist thoughts by many other authors. So even though it seems to be against antinatalism, it seems to be an interesting book. Hopefully I get to read it sometime. It is not available for free, so we'll see. We saw an article last week in South China Morning Post saying that all of the antinatalist content should be banned, prohibited, whereas pro-natalist content should be promoted. And the reasons for that is China's falling population, which still continues. There was another article talking about demographics of China. Now, this is not strictly an antinatalist article. It's more about population. But still, there is some good news, some bad news also. If you look at this chart, it shows the number of births per 1,000 people. And you can see in 1950, there were around 40 births per 1,000 people of the population. That has dramatically reduced to well below 10 now. That is getting many demographers in China worried, and the article talks about the plunging of the population and birth rate in China. Lastly, I want to talk about a video I made about an article by Emile P Torres. Emile P Torres had presented the reasons why they don't want to have children, and I had tried to make a claim that those reasons fairly align with antinatalism. I want to make a clarification about that video, that looking at that video, some might feel that I am being insensitive to their suffering. I am making a light of their suffering. But that was neither my intention, and I don't think I'm doing that. Emil went through a lot of suffering, and one should really be sorry for that. It is very unfortunate that they had to go through such suffering in their personal life. My point was that in order to conclude that this is not a good place to be in, one doesn't need to go through all that suffering. It is not necessary that one needs to go through the suffering that Emil had to go through. So even without that, one can easily deduce or infer that this is not a good place to be in. And from then on, you can have antinatalist reasons. Anyway, I request everyone to watch that video as well. I'm promoting myself blatantly, so sorry about that. And those were the stories of this week. I know it was a little short because I am running a little short of time this time around. But I wish everyone to have a new year with least amount of suffering. Happy New Year.